We're here playing, well, we're doing a recap of Tales of Cold Steel. And this time it will be part 2. And yes, it's going to be the part 2 of the game. In our last one, we did a recap of the original story, which led off with our old pal, Reen, getting carried off by Valimar. This goes in the depths of despair. Helendor, the capital of Erebonia. The Chancellor's speech was silenced by a sound of a single gunshot ringing throughout the city. The man who pulled the trigger was none other than C, the enigmatic leader of Imperial Liberation Front. But it was on that day that his identity was finally revealed. Crow Armburst, a friend and member of Class 7. Yes, folks, a good friend, was known to be an assailant of the Chancellor, with the Chancellor's fall, the Noble Alliance rose and seized control of the city. So basically, thanks to that situation, one more faction gained power, which was bad because it was basically a supremacist thing. The whole, I'm part of the noble class, and because of that, you all obey me under my, iron fist, that kind of thing. This thus began a bitter struggle between the Noble Alliance forces and the Imperial Army, the Erebonian Civil War. So yeah, it was literally just that. It was just nothing but two factions hating each other to the point where they started a war. It was literally like the South and the North in the United States. Not even Thor's military academy was safe from the fighting. Soon after taking Lamar, the Noble Alliance set its sights on the academy. Thanks to Crow's help, Thor's first line of defense was quickly subdued. Class 7 rushed to help their instructors, but even they were completely overwhelmed. Realizing they stood no chance against an unstoppable force, they decided to put their lives on the line, all to give Reen a chance to escape. Not wanting to leave his friends behind, Reed desperately cried out for them, but Valimar continued to fly him further away. Before long, his exhaustion and wounds overtook him. He slipped into unconsciousness. Not much time had gone by since the fateful day. Upon coming to, Reen was suddenly wrecked with frustration and self-loathing. Taking a moment to survey his new surroundings, he quickly realized he's somewhere in the Elsengard mountain range. He also noticed Valimar silently kneeling nearby. Celine was as well. She had been there the whole time, waiting for Reen to regain consciousness. The familiar rallied and stationed to the south to confused and panicked Reen. A month had passed since the fateful day. He has been torn from his friends. On top of that, it was now impossible to return to the place he'd last seen. Reen immediately began to make his way down the mountain, spurring by his concern for their well-being. Caught between worry and frustration, he was in no mood to receive Celine's attempts to speak with him. but their descent came to a sudden stop as they came face to face with a terrifying foe. A weapon not seen since the Dark Ages. A magic knight. Reen put a valiant fight, unable to best the Colossus on his own. Slowly, no pity for his struggling opponent. The magic knight raised his blade to deliver the final blow. But at the last moment, its mighty swing was interrupted by a powerful orbital art. The magic knight was thrown off balance and tumbled over on the edge of the cliff, pummeling down to the sheer mountain face. Anyway, Reen's savior was none other than the bracer Toval. With him was Princess Elphin and Reen's sister Elise. With their appearance, the tension that had been keeping Reen going vanished, and he collapsed in exhaustion. When his eyes opened once more, he was greeted with the familiar sight of his own home room. He was back home in Ymir. The sights and sounds of his hometown brought him back a flood of memories. After Reen recovered, Toval and the others filled him in on everything that had been happening over the past month. It was then his hopes were confirmed that though they have been scattered to the whereabouts unknown, his friends were still safe, which is good. On their decision was over, Reen paid a visit to the local hot spring in order to collect his thoughts. Now was the time to figure out his next move. Yet, no matter how much he racked his brain, no solutions came to him. None of this would have happened if he not been strong enough to fight off the Noble Alliance forces, strong enough to protect his friends. As he assaulted himself for such harsh thoughts, Elise appeared to give him some much-needed encouragement. Thanks to her, he is able to remember that in making sure he got away, his friends had each placed their faith in him. As Reen thought back to each of their faces, he realized not one of them had given up. Believing in the faith of his friends had given him was just the motivation Reen needed. He resolved to the search country until he had reunited every last one of them. However, the flames of war were upon him again before he knew it. While on the expedition outside of town, the group was paid a visit by the Witch of Abyss, Vita Glote. Vita Glote, whatever. She had appeared to give them a warning, though the sound of gunfire coming from Ymir was proof it had come too late. Rushing back to town, the group found it besieged by Jaegers and had been hired by Duke Alberea of the Four Great Houses. The town was in a panic. In an attempt to protect his people, Reen's father tried to fight the Jaegers, but ended up sustaining a severe wound. Seeing this, a roar of rage and despair burst forth from Reen, echoing throughout the town. Driven by hatred, he lost himself in his power and mercilessly dispatched the Jaegers. Fortunately, Elise's intervention and the news that the Baron Schwerzer was still alive were able to bring Rien back to his senses. So basically, he went chaotic mode, and the only reason he came back was his sister and the fact that his dad was okay. And yeah, there were little time for relief, however, as Vita showed herself once more. Apologizing for the incident, she made it clear to them that this is the result of Duke Elberez acting on his own. As a show of good faith, she erased the Jaegers' memories of having found the town and cast a spell that would keep it safe for a time. The strange moment of kindness caught the group off guard. Just long enough for a girl in black riding a huge puppet to swoop down on them. Said puppet bore a striking resemblance to Milliam's Archelonium. The girl in black moved too quickly for anyone to react, and before they knew it, she had seized both Elise and Elfin. Unable to chase them after, all could do was assure them that he'd come to their aid. He swore to himself he would keep this promise and reunite with his friends, and no matter what. With that vow lingering in his heart, he set off into a war-torn Erebonia. Act 1. Ashen Chronicles. Soon after Rien found the resolve he needed to search for his missing friends, Elise and Elfin were kidnapped by the Noble Alliance. Swearing to save them, he made Ymir his base of operations in search of his comrades. The group's first destination was the lively market town of Sildek. Upon arrival, it became clear that they were needed to treat carefully, to avoid watchful gaze of the Noble Alliance forces occupying the city. But following a set of clues to a windmill just outside of town, Rien was ultimately able to reunite with Malchus, Elliot, and Fee. Overjoyed to see one another again, time to encourage and exchange information on what had happened since they were lost together and their next move should be. It was decided that they would try to find a way to Gogolia Proving Ground, where the 4th Armored Division was stationed. In doing so, they would learn both the state of the Imperial Army and the overall situation about the war. Understanding the importance of this, they set off. Slipping past the tight surveillance at a Noble Alliance checkpoint, they followed the railroad tracks and reaching the ruins of Gorelia Forest. In the awe of the gaping crater where the fortress once stood, they did not have time to continue on. Didn't have time to the proving grounds before coming under attack. So basically, they got attacked. To make matters worse, their foe were especially formidable pair. Before them stood Trap Master Zeno and Leonidas, the behemoth. Regimental commanders of Zephyr, the Jaeger group Fee grew up with. So yeah, Fee grew up in a Jaeger company. Basically, she was a mercenary at towards a very young age. She's about 15 right now, roughly. The group put everything they had into fighting the two combat specialists. A brief clash wasn't enough to drive them away, though. Both the Jaegers seemed prepared to use their full power in round 2. Before they could, however, the battle was interrupted by a squad of Noble Alliance soldiers in Panzer Soldats. Basically Gundams, if you know what Soldats are, just giant humanoid robots. They were planning to launch a surprise attack on the proving ground. But in doing so, they happened to stumble upon Class 7's battle with the Jaegers. The commander of the squad ordered Zeno and Leo to get out of their way. Though annoyed, the two obliged, choosing to watch what happened next from thereafter. In their place, Class 7 now faced a squad of fully armed Panzer Soldats. Rin was able to fend them off by summoning Velimar, but the greater numbers had given them an advantage. Just when the situation seemed to be dire, a hearty roar overbid through the battle, turning the situation on its head. Oh yeah, I remember. It was the owner of its owner was Elliot's father, Lieutenant General Greek, standing tall atop a tank. The 4th Armored Division followed behind him, launching a full frontal assault on the Noble Alliance troops. What's more, the Railway Military Police, led by Captain Claire herself, arrived to provide backup. With their aid, the Noble Alliance was swiftly repelled, and thus Class 7 was able to rendezvous with the 4th Armored Division. As a result, they were able to receive key information from Lieutenant General Krieg himself. According to them, the Imperial Army was making steady recovery, but had little information regarding the situation of near Helmdir. He ended by suggesting that the students stay with him and the Imperial Army, but Rin's priority lay in reuniting with the rest of Class 7. With that settled, the group set off towards the next destination. This time, they aimed for the Nord Highlands, situated in the north part of the border between Arabonia and Kleverd. According to the Lieutenant General Zex Vander, the Noble Alliance and the Kleverd's army had joined forces to attack the Imperial Army forces in the area. What's more, the watchtower had occupied and been used to jam any attempts to call for reinforcements. As things stood, it was only a matter of time before the gate to the Imperial Army was defeated fell. At that time, a group also learned that members of their class who were there fighting to protect the people of Nord. Following them, the group was finally reunited with Janice, Alicia, and Milliam, waiting to repay the people of Nord for taking them in. They had been planning to retake the watchtower. Upon hearing about this, Reen and the others were more than willing to help. Yeah, they would do that. It's like, wait. You guys need help? I'm in. Let's do this. They successfully executed their assault on the watchtower and were able to reach the jamming device on its roof. What they haven't planned for, however, was that Altina, the mysterious girl who kidnapped Elise, was waiting for them. Stood on the other side of Erebonus' enforcers, LeBlanc. Blue Blank or whatever. I can't remember really pronounce that. Well, I probably could, but I don't really feel like it. After briefly exchanging words, the two groups engaged in fierce battle. The tide seemed to be in Class 7's favor, yet said tide turned when Blanc employed his shadow weaving technique to immobilize them. This left Reen with no choice but rely on the strange power within him. Yet, just as he steeled himself to do so, a brilliant gleam shot through the watchtower's roof. Class 7 was suddenly freed from shadow weaving by a series of metal wires. Their savior stood above them, looking down. It was Sharon Kruger, another enforcer of Erebonus, the current maid of the Reenford family. With her on Class 7 side, their victory was assured, or so they thought, but Panzer Soldaten belonged to the Imperial, so that basically the noble faction returned to the Watchtower soon after. Reen wasted no time summoning Valimar and put a quick work with of them. Having witnessed Valimar in action, Blue Blank and Altina bade their farewells and retreated. With no foes left stand in their way, Class 7 was successfully able to remove the jamming device from the watchtower, and with this, the immediate threat to Nord was settled. With their job finished in Nord, Class 7 set its sights to a lakeside town of Lingrim. Yeah, Lingrim. And you guys know which one's Lingrim, so... Asking around, they discovered supernatural occurrences that reported is nearby... the nearby castle, basically. Arriving there, they met with Laura and Emma, who had gone ahead to assess the situation together and reunite classmates made quick work of the issue. On their way back, Emma confessed to the group her true identity as a member of the Hexen clan. She believed she had no right to remain part of Class 7 after keeping such an important detail secret. Reen, however, felt differently. He pointed out she wasn't the only one in the group that had hidden their special circumstances, and even taken those into account, he was confident that their class was the finest Erebonia had to offer. That recognition was small, yet powerful. Push Emma needed. And with that, there was only one member of their class left to find. Jusis. Jusis, or whatever. I can't remember. I can't really pronounce it the way they do. If I heard it, I probably could be saying it, but it's really hard. Their search had led the group to Bearhold, a provincial location of the Noble Alliance's forces and ruled by the Erebonia family. Alberia family. Alberia, sorry. Following Jusis' guardians, the group finally reunited with him in an airship station inside the city. However, his family's actions and positions in the Noble Alliance weighed heavily on Jusis' mind. Feeling bound by his duty as a noble and guilty over the wrongs his family had committed, he claimed it was impossible for him to rejoin his former classmates. Hearing this, Reen posed a question. What were Jusis' personal feelings on the matter? Reen's pointed question brought Jusis back to his senses, but something was still causing him hesitation. He requested a duel between himself and Reen. Reen accepted, and they proceeded to lock blades with one another. Though the battle was close, Reen eventually able to best Jusis. I'm just gonna call him Jusis because, like, ugh. Though this battle, Jusis finally began the determination needed to stand against his family and rejoin his friends. As always, though, things didn't proceed quite so smoothly. Before they could finish their celebrations, two agents of Erebos made their presence known. One was Dovlin the Swift, head knight of the Shaltir, or whatever, something like that. The other was McBurn, known as the Almighty Convocation, and admittedly the Society's mightiest member. They had been dispatched to restrain Class 7, leaving the group with little choice but to fight. But despite the students' best efforts, the difference in pattern between them was just too great. Just as hope was lost, a familiar voice rang out above them. Dropping into the scene with the blazing of her namesake purple lightning was none other than Sora Velschestein, former A-rank bracer and Class 7's homeroom teacher. With her in the picture, McBurn's motivation to fight was set ablaze. Their clash seemed inevitable, but was interrupted by the arrival of yet another party. This time it was Duke Alberia, accompanied by a squad of Panzer Soldats. He had come in pursuit of his son Jusis. Their appearance doused McBurn's enthusiasm, causing him a distraught to leave. With that, the only foes left to choose Class 7 were Chase, my bad. to oppose Class 7 were Duke, Alberea, and Soldats. Calling upon Valamar once more, Reen made short. Once done, they wasted no time in leaving Barehead through the spirit path. Jusis bade his estranged father farewell before vanishing with the rest of his classmates. With another challenge safely undertaken, Class 7 had one exception finally reunited. After returning to Ymir and celebrated his feat, they gathered to decide their plans from on out. After which decision they agreed that they would act as a third party, one affiliated with neither the Imperial nor the Noble Alliance. However, they weren't able to decide that they wanted to establish by forming this third faction. In the midst of their decision, a voice rang out throughout the room, one they'd have rather not heard in such a long time. Well, doesn't this look fun? Mind if I join? Projection of Vitra appeared from them, accompanied by the roar of a massive engine. One look onto the window was enough to make its source clear. The Pangreal, the Noble Alliance's flagship, was hovering above the town. The group rushed outside to assess the situation, just in time to see Crow descending from the ship on Alberon. Accompanying him were Seraph members and Ouroboros and Rufus. Desperate to protect his hometown, Reen piloted Valamar to fight Crow. Yes, in the end, he was barely able to put a scratch on him. The rest of Class 7 took up arms as well, but Rufus single-handedly dispatched them with similar ease. After making it clear that they lacked the means to oppose him, Duke Cayenne revealed the reason for his visit. He had come to invite Reen aboard Pangreal. Should Reen... Basically, if he accepted, the Noble Alliance would stay away from Ymir for the remainder of the war. Despite their misgivings, the group had little choice but to accept. And thus, Reen made his way aboard the Titanic ship. So yeah, they basically... Alright, let's go. Okay. Aboard the Pangreal. After being strong-armed into coming aboard by Duke Cayenne, Reen found himself in the expensive halls of the Pangreal. The Duke's goal in doing so was to have the opportunity to invite Reen to join the Noble Alliance. With Councillor Osborne out of the picture, his priority lay in ending the war as swiftly as possible, or so he claimed. A goal which could be accomplished with much more ease if Rain agreed to join their ranks. Escorted to the private room to think it over, Reen found himself at a loss over what to do. In the midst of his thoughts, Crow paid him an unexpected visit. Realizing that he hadn't changed much at all in spite of everything, Reen began to question him. Why would he loathe Chancellor Asborn so much? What led him to form the Imperial Liberation Front? Unable to resist earnest questions, Crow gave him and agreed to talk to. At a young age, he had lost both his hometown and family to Osborne's schemes. He then wandered the country until he met Duke Kayan. The two aligned over the shared grudge for Osborne and feuded by the Duke. Crow sought out like-minded people to form the Imperial Liberation Front. During this time, Vita, who has been in contact with Duke Kayan, guided Crow to become Audine's Awakener. Finally, he enrolled himself to Thors to cover for his true goal: to assassinate Osborne and get rid of Erebonia. Get rid Erebonia of himself once and for all. Though Reen was visibly upset by his story, Crow insisted that he not let it influence his decision. Crow then took his leave, recommending Reen visit the guest honor room. Reen took the opportunity to wander the ship, gathering information, speaking to the various people aboard, before finally heading to the guest honors room. There he found none other than a Princess Elfin. According to her, Elise was currently being held with the rest of the Imperial family. After they briefly exchanged information, Elfin posed a question. Would Reen join the noble forces, or would he escape from the ship? Reen, however, did not yet have the answer for her. His heart was telling him not to side with a noble alliance under any circumstances. Yet he was also felt the desire to end the war as soon as possible for Elise's sake. Hearing this, Elfin couldn't help but set straight with a heartfelt speech. She told him he shouldn't use Elise as his excuse, not when Elise's greatest desire was for Reen to follow the path he believed in most. This opened Reen's eyes. He finally came to the realization that those he cherished felt the exact same way about him. In which the realization came forth with growth. The power he was once unable to control would no longer torment him. The only thing that he had left to do was to listen to his heart. And his heart's message was loud and clear. He would take Elfin and escape the airship. With the help of his power, he was able to shake off all who stood in their way. Thus, they successfully reached the ship's deck. But Crow was already there, waiting for him. This led to a duel between Reen and Crow, no Divine Knights involved. Reen was able to use his power to gain the upper hand. But said power ran dry before he could land a decisive blow. What's worse, it gave time for them to proposing him to finally reach the deck too. With nowhere left to run, the situation couldn't have been any more dire. Suddenly, a red streak zoomed through the skies overhead. The Courageous had come to the rescue. A number of trusty allies leapt from the cruiser and landed on the deck of the Pentagrel, whatever. Emma teleported herself and the rest of Class 7s aboard as well. Reen was both relieved and stunned by the turn of events, but the biggest surprise was yet to come. Prince Ulvert, owner of the Courageous and chairman of Thor's, also made his appearance. With both sides having assembled formidable rosters of equal strength, it was calculated the battle would likely end in a draw. Appearing soon after, Vita suggested that the Noble Alliance would take their leave to avoid a pointless battle. Thus, to their intervention, Reen and the others were able to leave the Pentagrel unscathed. And if you guys are wondering whether or not I like any of these characters, even the bad ones, I kind of do, and I kind of don't. See, a lot of times these people do their things, and it's for their own benefit, so it's really hard to like them and hate them at the same time. With Elfin successfully freed from the Noble Alliance clutches, the group welcomed her aboard the Courageous. Reen was saved from perilous situation aboard the Pentagrel, thanks to his friends and allies coming to his rescue. In the end, the situation was diffused, and both sides cautiously stepped away. With Elfin successfully freed from the Noble Alliance's clutches, the group welcomed her. Yeah, I just said that. Once things were settled, everyone celebrated their voracious reunions. In addition to the princess, the group had also found Prince Ulvert, who had been missing since the start of the Civil War, and Viscount Arson, Laura's father. And there, the group began decisions on the state of the war. The main topic was one posed by Prince Ulvert. What did the members of Class 7 intend to do from here on? Reen took it upon himself to answer his classmates' stead. Class 7 had come face to face with the country's many problems during their field studies, and due to the experience, they were unequivocally qualified to help the country through its new crisis. Hearing this, Prince Elver decided to leave the Courageous to them. He intended to travel to West Erebonia, where the fighting was fiercest, to help. Meanwhile, East Erebonia would be left to the classes. So basically, the ones with experience would go to the west, and the east would be settled here, making sure that it doesn't get any worse. Makes sense, actually. Meanwhile, Eastern Erebonia would be left to, Class 7. They were given full use to the Courageous, and Toa would be named acting captain. Oh yeah, go Toa. She's a sweetheart, but she knows what to do. Claire and Toval also left the group at this point, needing to return to their respective organizations. After setting off, the group took Toa's suggestion and narrowed down their goals, more manageable what and how. For the formal, they decided their first order of business should be to take back Thors from the Noble Alliance. As for how, they would increase their numbers by finding their fellow students scattered throughout the country and bringing them on board the ship. Having settled on their new goal, the group put their all in accomplishing this. Sometime after this, they were contacted by Alicia, whose family belonged to the Noble Alliance. Yeah. According to her, the Renfield Company had been occupied by her uncle. What's more, Alicia's mother, Irenia, was being confined within the building. Hearing this, the group wasted no time, heading to Roar. There, they met up with Alicia, who had formed something of a resistance. She had tried to convince her father to withdraw from the Noble Alliance, but to no avail. Instead, Marcus Rengar told her that the only way she could convince him was by force. Having taken his words to heart, she had begun plans to rid Roar of the Noble Alliance and will before Class 7 had arrived. After convincing Alicia to let them help, Class 7's first order of business was to rescue Irenia. Fortunately, Angelica had already located her. She was being held on a train currently stopped within the Sanctum Iron Mines. After a series of fierce battles with the Jaegers hired by the group to guard her and chance reunion with Sharon, they successfully freed Irenia from her imprisonment. Continuing their momentum from this victory, they rode the train back to the RF building and proceeded to seize it from within. All that remained was Alicia's father, Marcus Rengar. Wishing to settle this with her own, Alicia engaged him in a one-on-one duel with Panzer Soldats. And as the dust settled on the century's greatest dude, oh yeah, I remember that fight. Ooh. Alicia stood tall as the victor. Yeah. Accepting his defeat, announced his withdrawal from the war entirely. losing the support of one of the four great houses would prove a heavy blow to the Noble Alliance. So basically, there's only three Noble Alliances in the war, and was more than enough, as had become the norm. However, things would not proceed quite so smoothly. Yeah, it didn't. Vulcan, a member of the Imperial Liberation Front, appeared in a gargantuan soldat to challenge Reen. Reen accepted his challenge, hopefully to finally bring things to a close. While Vulcan's new model of Panzer Soldat proved a difficult foe, so basically Reen eventually did it. However, the battle put a significant strain on massive Soldat's systems, putting it at the risk of self-destructing. Yeah, literally that's what he said. It said it in the series. See ya, it's been fun. Vulcan ignored Reen's pleas for him to exit the machine, having already decided this would be his final resting place. Finally, the Soldat engine hit critical, resulting in a massive explosion. When the dusts cleared, there was no trace left of the machine or Vulcan. The tragic turn of events left a deep scar of regret within Reen's heart. He blamed himself for not saving Vulcan from his fate. Yeah, well, I mean, he wasn't any older than 17, so seeing that at that age would probably shake just about anybody. But with the situation in Roar now under control, the group had to set their sights on their next target, Erebonia's spirit shrines. They did so in order to collect the pieces of Zernium, or housed within the shrines. With enough ore, they could create a more powerful weapon for Valimar. However, one day, they received word from the 4th Armored set of basically under orders of none other than Duke Alberay himself. He just attempted to leave the group to confront his father on his own, but the others urged that this was something they needed to handle together. No sooner did they settled their resolve to act than they received a message from Rufus. He informed the group that the Noble Alliance took no part in the attack and did not condone the Duke's actions. He also told him that while he was not take direct action against his father, he could not let his actions pass. Knowing Rufus was not just using them, Class 7 nonetheless decided to make use of his info and headed to the Ark's fort to restrain Duke Alberea. With the backup of the 4th Army Division and the RMP they were able to reach the fort. Once they did, however, they were met by Imperial Liberation Front's Scarlet. Much like Vulcan, she appeared piloting a unique type of Panzers, one specialized in speed. Also, like Vulcan, she challenged Reen, hoping to find a resting place of her own. Reen, however, refused to allow events to repeat themselves. He accepted her challenge, but was determined to prevent her from dying. Though she was a formidable opponent, Reen was able to best her in the end. In a further parallel to Reen's last encounter with an member of the ILF, the strain of the battle caused her Soldat's engine to begin to self-destruct. Without an ounce of hesitation, Reen dashed in. With a single precise slash, he tore off the Soldat's cockpit and leapt away from the explosion. Though her machine was in pieces, Scarlet herself was unscathed. Reen had saved her. The group breathed a sigh of relief and headed into the fort. Reen, however, stayed behind to make sure Scarlet was okay. His relief at seeing she was fine was cut short by a familiar face. It was Grow. He had come out of certain concern for his last remaining team member. Seeing she was safe, he left the ground with some parting words of encouragement before he flew off. After watching him leave, Reen turned his focus on the fort once more. You arrived just in time to bear witness to the end of Sarah's solo battle against the Northern Jaegers, having convinced them to leave, Sarah staying behind to rest. The rest of the group continued on ahead, eventually facing off against Deval. Class 7 defeated her again, causing her to in a huff. Upon speaking with Duke Albrea, it was clear that he had no remorse for his actions, yet he quickly fell into despair upon learning all his allies had abandoned him. Having lost his will to go on, Albrea was arrested by his own son. When this was announced, the soldiers, soon working under the Duke, retreated effective, ending House Albrea's role in the war. So basically taking down, I think it's 3 now. No, still 2. There's still 2. Noble-Lands was shaken by the loss of yet another of the 4 great houses. In the final gambit, they gathered a majority of the forces head Haldemar. In doing so, they lowered their grip on the rest of the country, however. Trista was one such place affected by this turn of events. As soon as they heard Captain Clare's report, Class 7 knew this was the chance they had been waiting for. Wasting no time, they began their plan to retake the academy. Knowing a member of Panzersoldat lurked in the area, Reen charged in with Valamar, making quick work of their forces. Thanks to that, they were able to effectively drive back the remnant of the Noble Alliance troops still stationed at Trista. With peace restored to the town, its residents gave their liberators warm welcome. But before they could celebrate, Class 7 still had one more task: freeing the academy itself. Arriving on the campus, they were greeted by the upper-class students who had been placed in charge of the academy. Led by Patrick, they had named themselves the Order of the Lion. Considering themselves Class 7's rivals, they wished to stake their pride and honor on a battle against. After a fierce battle between the two groups of students, Class 7 proved victorious. Finally acknowledging Reen is an equal, Patrick disbanded the Order of the Lion and pledged the upper class students' support to the courageous. Finally, after all the struggles, the group was able to take back their academy. With all the students of Thors united under one banner, the academy now truly represented the third path of Erebonia. Forward relentlessly. Having successfully taken back the academy, the students took some time to celebrate together. The war itself was reaching its climax, however. As a result, the group received a request from the Imperial Army. They asked them to rescue the Imperial family and Elise. The Noble Alliance had been holding them captive at Carval Imperial Villa. The fact that the students weren't affiliated with either faction made them perfect for this task. Under Toa's command, they flew towards the villa the day after. They weren't alone, however. They were aided in reaching the villa by the Imperial Army's assault on Hildemar. They also had the help of not only the upper class students, but all the other students they had recruited during their travels around the country. With the strength of a united Thors behind them, they were able to fight against their way into the top floor to the villa. There, they found the people they had come to rescue. Before they could breathe a sigh of relief, however, the group was confronted by Altina once more. Milliam took this chance to question her about the possibility of becoming sisters. And yeah, it was kind of a cute thing. See, Milliam, think at the cutest little 8-year-old little girl. Like, she's not any older than 8 or 9, maybe even 7. But yeah, and these two girls, about the same age, go around saying, I want to be your sister, and it was kind of cute because Milliam is such a bundle of energy, and this little one, confused, but same kind of energy in a small, reserved kind of way. It was actually adorable. Altina confirmed her suspicious, claiming that the two of them were technically related. Though they were curious about what exactly the pair meant by this, the group's partiality was rescued. Priority was to rescue the hostages. Altina and her puppet proved to be formidable foes, but Class 7 prevailed against them, as they had all others before. Doing so, they were able to rescue the Imperial family and Governor Reynance. And Reen was able to reunite with Elise at long last. Their job wasn't over yet, though. The group learned that Duke Cayenne had taken Prince Cedric. And as they tried to question Altina, however, a pillar of light erupted from the capital. It was centered where Balflame Palace should have been, but in the palace's place rose something dark and twisted. The Infernal Castle. According to Emma, it was summoned forth by Hexen Clan's most forbidden incantation. Claire took the Imperial family under her care, while Toa tried to get a better grasp on the situation. But Rien, however, could feel Crow's presence within the castle. He knew he was waiting for them there. With that, Rien and the rest of Class 7 resolved to make their way into the imposing structure. Using Valimar to cut their way through its massive door, they climbed upwards, fighting more and more powerful foes. Members of both Ouroboros and Zephyr stood in their way as well. Though the students put a valiant fight, their foes were just too strong. Well-timed aid from their more experienced allies allowed them to continue advancing through the castle, however. After a long climb, they finally reached Verminion Throne, their final destination. Crow and Vita were there waiting for them, as well as Duke Cayenne and the captive Cedric. Rien told Crow about the promise he made to Toa, Alicia, and George, that he would bring Crow back and make him graduate with them. Though Rien knew full well how unlikely it was, that only made him want to accomplish it more. Class 7's determination to take Crow by surprise, but Duke Cayenne used the moment to make his presence known. He told the group of his ancestor, Emperor Athos, the one named the False Emperor during the War of Lions. Cayenne's goal was to realize his ancestor's dream and make the country one ruled exclusively by nobility. Yeah, if this was like a school of magics, he would be Voldemort from Harry Potter. No kidding. This guy was that fucking an ass. It's like, oh, I deserve to rule over you because I am nobility. Haha. The group was astonished by his selfishness, promoting Rien to respond to the Dirk's dictation. So basically he said, fuck you. He told him they didn't care one way or the other about his dream, but the fact remained he kidnapped the crown prince. Thus, in order to rescue him and settle things with Crow, Class 7 would do whatever it took to put a stop to Duke's plans. Though Cayenne was visibly upset by this, Crow and Vitra interrupted him by drawing their weapons and standing in Class 7's way. Of course they did. The time for talking is over. The final showdown can come. It would be no easy battle, but however, as crew and showed surprising levels of teamwork, Class 7 couldn't afford to lose this fight, though far too much had been riding on it. Mustering everything they had, they were eventually able to eke out a victory. This wasn't the end, however. Once the battle was over, both Rien and Crow jumped into their divine knights. It was up to them alone to finally settle the score. Proving his feelings into his new blade, Reen stood face to face against Crow once more. The battle pushed each of them well beyond their limits, but at the very end, it was Crow who was brought to his knees. It was an outcome so incredible, the rest of Class 7 could scarcely believe it. All except Sarah. She broke the stunned silence and made the result official. Yep, I think the victory is clear. The battle goes to Reen. After being one step behind him for so long, Reen had finally scored a decisive victory over Crow. The rest of the comrades wasted no time surrounding and congratulating him once he had discarded Valimar. Crow and Valimar accepted their defeat, signaling the Noble Alliance's defeat and marking the end of the war. Or rather, that's how things should have gone, if not for a certain individual who refused to accept his outcome. Forcing the captive Cedric into its core, Duke Cayenne revived the entity responsible for the calamity 250 years prior. The Vermilion Apocalypse. It drew its power from the Vermilion Knight, and the member of the Armor family housed within it. Once the creature was freed, it was no time draining Mama from across the Empire. Thinking quickly, X activated a barrier that prevented Class 7 from suffering ill effects from its power. But it was only a matter of time before the Apocalypse's overwhelming power would break through it. It was enough time for Crow to devise a strategy. However, having Vitra enchanted his weapon, he dealt a significant blow to their foe, giving Class 7 an opening to rush it. Each gave everything power in them to stand up such a fearsome monstrosity. So basically, there was a way to do it, and after fighting it off for so long enough, both Valimar and Aldine had recovered enough to join the fray. Their target now was the Vermilion Apocalypse's core, where Cedric was being held. Crow took it upon himself to draw Vermilion Apocalypse's attention in order to give Reen an opening. In doing so, however, he allowed it to deal a blow that pierced Aldine's chest. Reen was shaken by the sight of this, yet Crow's words of encouragement were all he needed to close the distance to their target. After a mighty blow, he had succeeded in ripping the monstrosity's core from its chest. The creature bellowed out in agony before fading away for good. With that, Valimar had been saved from impending disaster. Cedric himself was safe and sound, too, which came as a huge relief to the group, but it wasn't long before they noticed Crow wasn't with them. They turned to their attention to Aldine in search of him, only to see that the Divine Knight had fallen to its knees. A paled crow, emerged from within, clutching his chest. Rushing to his aid, the group realized he had suffered a wound identical to Aideen's. Emma and Silent tried their best to heal him, but only delayed the inevitable. It was life slipping through his grasp. He apologized to Reen for being able to keep his promise to Toa and the others. He also gave parting words to each member of Class 7. And with his final breath, he asked that they live their lives with hope for the future. His last words spent with his dear friends, he was able to pass in peace. He fell silent, leaving only the tearful sobs of his friends who echoed through the halls. Yet before they could even recover, Duke Cayenne let out an enraged bellow. In a desperate final bid for victory, he held Cedric at knife point. Retta, less than pleased with his selfishness, attempted to quiet him by force. But before she could, an unexpected turn of events took place. Someone else dashed into the scene, cutting down Velta's familiar, Galactus, without mercy, and attacking the sheer abyss herself. To everyone's surprise, it was none other than Rufus Albarea. He announced his intent to arrest both Duke Cayenne and Vitra for their actions. Those present questioned why Rufus had chosen to appear then, after all times, especially considering the Noble Alliance had already lost. Further, why was he trying to arrest people who were part of his own faction? Their questions were answered by the appearance of Lecter and Claire. Oh yeah, I remember this. Do you guys remember the conversation earlier on the last video where Lecter, Claire, and of course Rufus were talking to Osborn? And the answers would stun all present to silence, especially Jusis. Rufus Albarea had in fact been primary member in the Iron Bloods, an organization under Osborn's direct control all along. Yeah, it was like, think guys, if it's really hard to explain. Think when it comes to an organization, it'd be like the SS for Hitler, like the direct SS. That's literally the equivalent of this. Duke Cayenne, eventually stunned, asked what he should gain by revealing this after Osborn's death. He received his answer, though not from the person he expected. He would gain nothing, which is why it's rather fortunate that I, very much alive. The one who uttered those words made his appearance before everyone could totally process what he had said. The man who now stood before them was a man who should not have been alive. The man Crow had shot through the heart. Chancellor Osborn. I'm not going to pronounce his actual name. All Reen and the others could manage to do was stare at in awe in the events unfolding before them. Osborn's survival had been kept an utmost secret. To point where no one save Rufus had the slightest clue. The mission Osborn had been given him was to join the Noble Alliance and weaken it from within. Oh, damn. Okay, that I didn't remember that one. That makes sense though. I mean, it's centrifuge. You go in, see an organization, kill it from the inside. It makes sense. Vitra had her own questions on this matter, particularly regarding Altina, and had appeared with Osborn. Why did Osborn have full control over one of our Apollo's 13 factories? What was his plan? Osborn's reply was simply and straightforward. He was going to take over Ouroboros' phantasmal blaze plan. Hearing this, Vitra asked Reen and the others to take care of Ro before teleporting away. Osborn ordered Rufus to move forward occupation of Crossbell, then begin to take his leave. Reen, however, refused to let him, running up to him and let out a very emotion that he bottled up inside. Not in regard of any of those developments, but simply the fact that Osborn was still alive. Why? Why are you still alive? Crow shot you. You're supposed to be dead. But in the end, couldn't avenge his grandfather. He didn't get revenge on you. Was everything he did? Was his whole life for nothing? In response to Reen's furious outburst, Rufus informed him that Osborn's actions were tied to him as well. Upon hearing this, a memory buried deep within Reen's mind resurfaced. A memory from 12 years ago, just before he had adopted by the Schwarzer family. Reen, I pray you grow up strong and healthy. Oh, adios. If you are listening, hear me, please. Allow this child. I'm glad to finally see you again, my son. You've grown into a fine young man. And that's Osborn's reaction. As Reen stood there dazed, pondering what this memory could possibly mean, a ruthless grin spread across Osborn's face. I'm glad to see you again, my son. You've grown into a fine young man. Indeed, the Emperor will soon know of the Ashen Chevalier, the hero whose brave deeds allowed us to reclaim the capital. And who better to assist me than a national hero? The occupation. Though Class 7 had helped bring the war to the end, Erebonian's fate remained firmly in Osborn's grasp. Osborn, the man shot through the heart in broad daylight and reappeared as though nothing had happened. By his side was Rufus Albernia, who was revealed to be one of the Ironbloods, primarily all along. Together, they presented Reen as the hero who had put the end to the war that ravaged Erebonia. 2 months later, Crossbell once again suffered from its position between the continent's two largest countries. An unexpectedly swift invasion from Erebonia left the city-state entirely under its control. Koval, however, was not about to sit by and let its rival claim another land. The Republic sent its own troops into counteroffensive. They stood little chance against Erebonians' Panzer Soldats, however, and were forced to retreat. Rien, having named the Ashen Chevalier, was sent into Crossbell to help fend them off. During this time, a speech from the state's new ruler had been scheduled at Arcus Tower. Osborne began his speech with the typical formalities. Following that, he named Rufus as Crossbell's first Governor General. Rufus's first act was to announce that the formerly independent state had been annexed into Erebonia. And if you guys don't know what that means, basically we're taking over. You are no longer going to be called this. If your city stays as far as their name, that is up to the person that is annexing them. And that in itself is just, it's basically saying, your country is mine, so get used to it. Crossbell's freedom had been stripped away, yet there were those who were working into covering under the new wall before them. One was a member of the Crossbell State Police Department, Lloyd Bannings. The other was Roxia Mio, a woman who led double life as both a performer and a famous troupe and a legendary assassin, Yin. They had made their way into Crossbell's underground network of tunnels in order to keep the state's top secret info out of Erebonia's hands. With the help of Ingin, a mafia syndicate based in Calvert, they reached the Geofront's E-Center. Their plan was to copy the information from the core terminal, then reformat the terminal itself. So basically, copy the information and then delete it. Delete the original. Swiftly navigating the underground tunnels, it didn't take them long to reach their destination. Once they had stood utilization unit they brought with them, all they had to do was wait for the process to finish. While revealed at first, they quickly fed off. A voice called out from them behind. Turning to look, the pair came first face to face with a black-haired boy and a girl dressed in black. They had received a special order to stop Lloyd and Xia's ploy. This was well within expectations, however, and Lloyd and Rixia decided to hold the mysterious duo off until the data wipe was done. Though their eccentricities proved much stronger than their ages implied, Lloyd and pulled through. The battle seemed to take a little toll on each other. The boy and the girl, however, what's more, the The girl pressed the boy to stop holding back. Agreeing, the boy began to focus his power. Roxia immediately noticed an aura of negative energy surrounding him. Both she and Lloyd braced themselves for an even fiercer battle, but just as they did, the initialization device finished its process. Lloyd and Roxia's strategy to buy time had been a success. In response, the boy's menacing energy dissipated. Unable to prevent the format, the boy and girl switched their objective. The boy raised his hand and called out a name, causing a huge machine to appear out of nowhere. He proceeded to board it without wasting a time and destroy the terminal with one powerful swing. Lloyd quickly revealed the initiation unit as a terminal collapsed into pieces. However, he and were cornered by a machine that both just as much power as the ions they forced only a few months ago. Or so it seemed, until the boy allowed them to pass, telling them arrest warrants hadn't been issued for either of them. With little other choice, Lloyd and Roxia swallowed their pride and made their escape. But before they left, Lloyd turned and asked the boy a question. As I'm sure you already know, my name is Lloyd Bearings, and I'm a police detective with the Crossbell State Police Department. What's your name? I'm with Thor's Military Academy, Class 7. No. I'm a Provincial Army officer with the Crossbell government, Reen Schwarzer. Watching the two of them leave, Reen called Lecter to report his failure. Lecter spoke as though he were familiar with Lloyd and Roxia and accepted Reen's report without reprimanding him. Having done what was asked of him, Reen stated his intention to return before cutting off the transmission abruptly. Following that, he bid farewell to Altina. Though Reen was concerned over the way Altina thought of herself as a mere tool, his concern didn't seem to reunite with her. Before he left, he took one final glance at the direction Lloyd and they left, somewhat jealous of their ability to push forward through impossible odds and believe in the future. Reen took his leave from Crossbell. Epilogue. Having carried out his orders, Reen made his return to Trestia. Upon arrival into the station, he came across Claire, who had been waiting for them. As she was a member of the Ironbloods, though, all she received from Reen was a cold shoulder. Not because of anything she did personally, but simply due to her relation to the people like Rufus and Asborn. Claire herself was fully aware of this, and could only see him off with pain in her heart. Reen felt regret over this, of course, but all he could do was continue walking and leaving the situation behind. Once he did, a wave of nostalgia wished over him as he took over Tristia once more. The excitement he felt over after he and his friends finally set it free from Noble Alliance was something he could never forget. And yet, despite all that, despite seeing welcome sight of limo flower blooming again, he couldn't help but feel cold. Not long after, the rest of Class 7 arrived to greet him. Together they made their way back to the academy. The war had been brought to a swift close by Rufus's hand. The Noble Alliance had been dissolved following Duke Cayenne's arrest, and the remaining nobles made fully aware of the situation in Crossbell. After some persuasion, they had been convinced to throw their support behind Councillor Osborne, for fear of Culvert claiming the city-state for its own. With the country's military unit under one banner, they had marched into Crossbell. Lacking its own military to stand against them, Crossbell fell within a day, which led to the present situation. Erebonia was at peace once more, and thus the members of Class 7 could return being normal students. They went through their studies and tests as usual, taking care to enjoy what time they still had together in class. Now and then, though, Breen couldn't help but think about Crow. His friends and classmates had settled new goals and were each putting all they had towards achieving them. With their final free day around the corner, Breen found himself visiting the engineering building. There he found George and Alicia, who had each told him about their plans to travel around the continent. In the midst of their decision, though, it was clear to them that Breen still felt guilty over participating in the battle over Crossbell. They reassured him that he didn't need to feel bad and that he had, in fact, played a key role in protecting Crossbell citizens. Breen could feel tears welling up over their kindness, but he held them back for now. Following this, he paid a visit to the student council room. There he found Toa fast asleep at her desk, having just finished her final duties as president. Breen watched her with a smile, thinking back to the first time he had found her like this. Suddenly, though, he was interrupted by her mumbling. Angie. George Crow. The final name was uttered, caused him to let out an involuntary gasp, which roused Toa from her slumber. Though unhappy, she was caught sleeping. She could tell the glance that didn't seem okay. She convinced him to sit down. She told him that there was no need to endure anything that life threw at him, and that it was okay to sit and rest if things got too hard. Hearing this, the feelings Breen had been holding up burst forth. He confessed his regrets over both losing Crow and breaking his promise to her. Like the others, Toa reassured him that he had done everything he could. After leaving everything to Toa, his final as a student of Thor's awaited him. Whether by coincidence or fate, he bumped into his classmates at the gate, and they all went home together. Casting their eyes towards the falling little flowers, they thought back to their first day at the academy. The time they spent together since was truly a treasure to each of them. Their time left together was short, but they would make the most of it. Before they knew it, their final day had dawned. Sensing an old presence at the old schoolhouse, Rin made his way over to investigate. The moment he arrived, though, the presence mysteriously vanished. Then Tova, Elise, and Elpham all showed up. What's more, Claire was with him, having come to Elpham's escort. Both she and Rin took this opportunity to clear the air with one another, putting them on good terms once more, which is good. As the group chatted away, though, a bell suddenly rose at the old schoolhouse began to glow. The rest of the group rushed over to find out what was going on. Inside the building had boundless corridor swirling with energy. As Valimar was found in the old schoolhouse, Rin summoned him to see if he could remember anything. According to him, a trial separate from one they had faced during the school festival had now been activated, though the particulars of this new trial remain unclear. This was their chance to unravel the mysteries of 1,200 years ago. Once inside, they proceeded through the end of the massive area. There they found a white shadow, resembling a divine knight waiting for them. It claimed to govern the shadow trial, which was once sealed away, but brought back due to an infernal castle's destruction. Class 7 had previously passed the legitimate trial and led Rin to becoming Valimar's Awakener. According to the Shadow, there was nothing more to gain by passing the Shadow trial. And yet, the group opted to take it. Regardless, they wanted to do one final act to mark the end of their time together as Class 7. Knowing this was their finale, the group spared no effort in their battle and proved victorious. Upon its defeat, the Shadow dispersed into thousands of modes of light and floated down into the pedestals. Together they had cleared another trial. Together they had created another unforgettable memory. As they celebrated their victory, and finally hit them that this would be the last time they would be able to do so. To everyone's surprise, Milliam was first to cry. Elise went next. She went to hug Milliam, which in turn opened the floodgates for the rest of the class. This was the first time the group had let out emotions that had been bottled up for each of them, their sadness over having to split up. To the rest of the days before the end of the school year fled by too quickly, and then it was time for them to depart. Having gotten their grief out of the way, they each faced one another with brilliant smiles. Although they were parting ways, they believed that they would one day meet again. Before leaving, though, they thanked Sarah for everything she has done for them and teased her for crying in response. Yeah, it was kind of cute. With that, it was truly time for them to leave. Each had something he or she wished to accomplish. As they all made their departure from Trista, only Reen remained. Having finished seeing his dear friends off, he returned to the academy. He knew the challenges that lay ahead of him. He would have faced it to accept the government's orders for him and Valinmar. But even so, he had made an important promise with his friends. Filled with determination to keep his promise, he strode forward towards his future. And that was, ladies and gentlemen, Tales of Cold Steel 2. Basically saying that was basically the concept, what happened in the second one. This, ladies and gentlemen, is number 3, which basically continues just after this, which is like a few years after that. I think it was more or less, according to the information, it was about a year, roughly a year more after that, roughly. And they continue off on that story. Okay, let's go. I'm gonna do like a 20 minutes of this, and then the next few videos is just basically gonna me be playing Tales 3. I will not stop until I get to Tales 4 with you guys, because I want to do this with you guys. Because I haven't played Tales 4 quite yet. And I want to do that with you guys because it has more meaning. So I hope you guys appreciate that. But it will take a while, more or less, I would say about 2 or 3 weeks minimum. So it will take at least a month for me to finish this game with you guys, because I'll be doing 2 or 3 hours of video. Like I said, this game is very long, so bear with me, folks. I love, yeah, you can tell that people are like having fun talking to each other. Like the anime. Oh, hey, how's it going? Hey, yeah, we're having fun, yeah. It's like, whoops, sorry about that. What happened? I don't know. I swear I heard something. It was weird.
Okay, all set. We said we'd walk to school together, and she just up and leaves while I'm still asleep. Dad, Mom, Ken, and Nana, wish me luck. I won't lose to any of these Imperial!
Yeah! Strike! Not bad. I simply need more experience. Despite all the battles we went through yesterday, he was never short of breath. The 8 Leaves, 1 Blade School. It's impressive to be sure, but nothing compared to what Father Mueller and Uncle Zex can do. I suppose the Ashen Chevalier simply relies on the power of his Divine Knight.
Well, he was thrust upon him a lot of power he really didn't understand, including his own, so...
Oh. Good morning.
Good morning, Yuna. I take it you're headed out as well?
Yeah. Are you all done with your training? It's pretty impressive how you do all that every single day.
Well, it's something I've been doing from a very young age, so it's just part of my morning routine.
I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry about before.
Huh?
You know, when I slapped you. I know it wasn't your fault, and I shouldn't have gotten so angry. It was childish of me.
Ah, that. I'd like to apologize too, but have you been wanting to say that for the past 2 weeks? Considering how much you dislike Erebonians, it's very thoughtful of you.
I don't dislike the people here. Yeah, I've got my problems with the country, but this is between people. When I mess up, I make sure I apologize. Especially considering what I said about your swords. I mean, you practice every day, and...
Ah, right.
And they'll be way more useful than a couple of weapons as old as the Great Collapse.
Don't worry about that. Besides, like I said, my training is just part of my morning routine. Out of curiosity, is everyone from Crossbell like you?
Huh? Like me, how?
Oh, I don't mean to offend. Very straightforward and good-hearted. Probably the type to be easily tricked.
Damn.
Hey! Wanna run that by me again?
Like I said, I don't mean to offend. I'm glad to have a classmate like you whom I can trust. Though I don't know if I can trust your skills just yet.
You're a real piece of work. Well, let's start over. Glad to be your classmate, Kurt.
Hello,
There you
two.
go.
Good morning.
Altina? I thought you left for school already.
I received a routine status call early this morning. I didn't want to wake you, so I took it in the study room. If I disturbed you as I was leaving, I apologize.
No, I was out like a light. But wait, what do you mean, routine status call?
Sorry, that is confidential.
Well, in any event, it's nearly time to head to class. We're all in the same class anyway, so why don't we walk together?
I do not mind, but I believe the correct term for my presence would be a third wheel. Judging by what I've seen, your relationship has progressed.
Our relationship? What? No, that's not what's going on.
She certainly words things in a distinct way.
Distinct is the word, sure. I guess it's accurate, but still. Oh. Distinct is definitely the one word for it.
Leaves is such a nice place. I can't get enough of this homey atmosphere. It's
I'd
so
say
peaceful and laid back.
Her way of saying
And
it
it's got
is
some
more
great
of
shops.
direct.
Agreed. It's a good halfway point
And when I
between
say
rural and urban.
direct, I mean
We're just
direct
the right
shot,
distance away from Heimdall.
as in
The
arrows,
previous owners
or
of
in
this
her
land were a noble
moments,
family.
bullets.
After they lost ownership of it, the government attempted to convert it into a resort. However, that plan fell through. It's said the half-finished buildings from that were used to create the campus.
Well, you sure do know a lot.
I suppose that explains why the branch campus is so large.
All that aside, I didn't think the Empire's military academies would be this tough. I get combat training and practical exams, but math, history, even art? Isn't this workload way beyond what you'd have at a regular high school?
Well, here in Erebonia, the pen and the sword are both held in high regard. Especially at Thors. It's a prestigious, traditional school founded by our most notable emperor. That legacy won't change simply because this is a branch campus.
However, it seems the main campus has changed significantly this year.
Ah, yes.
Huh? I don't get what you guys are talking about, but looks like we're gonna have to give it 110% here. Let's kick all the other classes' butts.
Well, if you say so. However, most of our lessons are held with the other two classes anyway.
Homeroom is the only one we have without them.
Oh, right. I guess it makes sense given the small number of students, but that means Class 7.
Well, well. If it ain't the chosen ones strutting off to class together.
You're...
I think he's in Class 8.
Good morning. Is there something we can help you with?
Nope, not a thing. Just wanted to get a little peek at the class taught by the hero of Erebonia. Class 7, huh? I'm sure the view's just great from up on that pedestal of yours.
Sorry to disappoint, but we're being treated the same as any other students.
Yeah, it's not like things are going to be different for us just because our instructor's famous.
Oh yeah? Then why'd they go out of their way to make such a small class? A little kid who's clearly too young to be here. Some rich pretty boy with fancy hair. Oh, and a loud, unruly foreigner from some sob-story country. Oops, my bad. Not a foreigner anymore, huh?
All right, we understand. You're a tough guy. But that's quite enough. If you have more to say, I'd be happy to talk with you further. After school.
Not bad. You've got more spine than I gave you credit for. But the one I've got business with is...
I'm so happy to see everyone getting along.
Oh.
She's from Class 9, Military Finance.
Hmm?
Good morning to you all. The weather is just splendid, isn't it? But if you spend too much time out here chatting, the bell will ring before you know it.
True.
You all done messing with us?
Me? I'm not here to mess with you. Well then, see you around.
Bullshit.
I hope you all have a lovely day. I'll see you again for the classes we have together.
Nice interference. Sheesh.
What's that blonde guy's problem? I can't believe they let some punk like him into a military academy.
He obviously had some issue with those of us in Class 7. No, not us exactly, but...
Oh, shoot!
We better hurry, or we'll be late to homeroom.
You're right. Let's get moving.
Whew. Hard to believe it's been 2 weeks already.
It warms my heart to see all the students trying their best.
The classwork here is much more difficult than at the main campus, so I'm sure it's tough on them.
Yeah. Then on top of that, training exercises were added onto their curriculum. We didn't have anything like that at the main campus. Thors branch campus. I think I'm starting to understand what the government's trying to do here.
Oh, but I don't think that's the only reason for this place. In keeping with Thor's tradition, we'll also have those days to look forward to.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll be a relief for them. I'll tell my students about them after school, alongside the club announcement.
Got it. Thanks for taking care of that. Well then, Instructor Rean, let's give it our all today.
Likewise, Instructor Toa.
This is the formula. You will need it when calculating trajectory. Make sure you commit it to memory.
This is known as Gross Domestic Product, or GDP for short. By the way, the GDP of the Empire of Erebonia rose 42% last year compared to 2 years ago.
Probably because of the annexation. But she didn't want to say that, obviously.
Today's task is walking. Sounds easy, right? Well, let me tell you, it won't be. We'll be marching, so I need to see perfect posture and formation while armed. Even combat tactics got worn out by this.
The War of the Lions. Said to be the largest turning point in the history of the Empire. The end of this war brought us to our modern era. Today, we'll be looking into the events leading up to the war that caused it to develop the way it did.
The way he explains it, it's actually pretty easy to understand.
An interesting perspective.
Oh, I see. I'm actually learning a lot.
Kind of the point, isn't it?
He's so dashing.
Damn, girl. Girl wants it bad. Tired. Let's prepare for the classwork and difficult, but even so, are you just piling more work on us just because we're used to old pace? Not yet, but may end up needing to do that. Just that. The curriculum here at the branch office is pretty diverse. It's probably a good idea to prepare yourself for even more work down the road. If only I weren't there were so many lectures. Energy consumption greater than expected. Sheesh. Tomorrow's a free day, is it not? That's alright. In fact, I was about to explain. Oh, right, the entrance. Mentioned that, didn't it? How is it different from a normal day off? Think of free days as normal school days, but without classes. On free days, you can study, train, pursue one of your hobbies. If you can get permission beforehand, you could even visit Hamdar for the day. Wow, that's more freedom than I expected. I figured it would be more without a ton of rules and restrictions. That doesn't sound too bad, right, though? Well, just one of the things to make Thors Thors. However, though, there are generally free to choose what you do. There is one mandatory task tomorrow. You'll need to choose a club to join. Really? A club? I thought, though, there would be clubs at school. Would be just found it. It was a requirement from the principal herself. She said as long as we are using the Thorn name, student clubs are a must. You'll be allowed to apply for a club as long as you have at least 2 members. Well, also see about getting your club proper equipment. Oh, and any students that don't join a club will be put on student council that will be working directly under the principal. Sounds dangerous. What is this place? Everyone here is sort of too over the top. So we're being forced to choose then. We have until tomorrow, correct? Right. I recommend you start thinking about it after school today. If you need advice, feel free to talk with any of facility members. Remember, we're here to help you. Sigh, understood. I prefer just having club assigned me a club. Also, regarding new course, at the end of the week. Oh, I forgot about that. Pincer Soldat training. That's right, the training units have arrived at the hangar. You'll be joining the combat tactics students for basic maneuvering lessons. After that, we'll discuss the special lessons, the first of which will be take place this weekend. Special lessons. I was curious about those. There's likely no point in us asking about them now, is there? Sorry, but not even us instructors have been filled in yet. Anyway, focus on tomorrow for now. Think as a day to spread your wings and lift your spirits. That concludes homeroom. Can I get you to lead the class, Altina? Understood.
Stand, bow.
Tomorrow's a free day, da-da-da-da. There's a briefing starting. Perhaps it's about... Yep, that's correct. Special lessons held next week, and... I see. Only info you're getting me now, huh? I've stopped seeking. I guess it's gonna be bigger than even Panzer Soldat training. All of the students will be joining in for the lessons, correct? Correct. Without exceptions, all students and teachers from class 7 to 9 will participate. They'll report at 3 p.m. tomorrow to tactical conference room in the main. That's it for now. Sheesh. Picture perfect model of the RPM. RPB, whatever. You guys know what that means. The Royal Military Police, basically. No, it's the Railroad Military Police, whatever. So basically, they did a lot of stuff. So basically, sorry to leave you guys hanging on this one. I was only gonna do a few things here and then tuttle off, because yeah. Now you guys are all caught up with what happened in the first two games, and next few videos are gonna be just me playing whatever. So I hope you guys love it, and like I said, I have to toddle off. But thank you for checking out my videos, guys. I love you all so much, and please check out my other videos. They would definitely be coming up in the next couple of days, definitely weeks. Maybe the next couple of weeks will be definitely a full-on playthrough of this game, so I hope you guys love it. I will not be playing straight, but I will be playing a lot of this game specifically, and or Batman, until I beat them both and show you guys how. Anyway, take care, guys. I love you guys so much. You guys are wonderful, and again, thank you for checking out my videos. Like, subscribe, comment down below, and I gotta go. Take care, and remember, the magic is within all of us. It's within you, it's with your parents, it's with, as long as you use it correctly. I love you all. Take care. Candor, your neighborhood genie.